So what I've noticed in my business, we've lost more people than I wish we did, and I wish things were different with certain people and I would have done things different or they would have did things different or whatever, right? You try to reflect on the things that happen and so you don't have them happen again. If you notice something changing about someone, it doesn't mean they're gonna quit, but it means something. It could mean something's happening at home with their family or their husband or their wife or their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their mother and father, and it just means you should check on them. And so like he probably used to come to work with his hangover and go, I'm gonna deal with this because I wanna do what I'm doing, I like what I'm doing, I wanna be here. And when he didn't, he kind of made his mind up that he took his foot off the gas. He was probably like, I ain't dealing with this hangover today in that office, you know what I mean? So it's like, I thought that was really insightful, the granola thing, because...
Guys, before we get started, just want to let you know, if you have any questions for us, please click the link below. You could ask us any questions via email, and we'll get back to you by the end of the episode. All right, guys, we're here on episode 40 with very special guest, Sean DeDeyn. A great guy, dad. He owns multiple businesses, still finds time to give back to the community, the wrestling community. It's been an absolute pleasure getting a chance to stay connected with Sean as long as we have. We met each other in 2007. And been a long time now, man, coming up on like 17 years. And, we still stay connected. We were going for runs last summer. Once he's all healed up, we'll be back pounding pavement. We also have very special co-host Dave Seide today, who we're super thrilled about. I was just talking with Evan right before the guys came in, and it almost feels like Seide has more strategies now than when he first sat on the couch, however many weeks ago that was. His most recent video yesterday was showing how important sunlight is in the morning, and this dude's just a ray of sunshine. So not only were Sean and I teammates back in 2007, but Dave and Sean were also teammates. So we're really looking forward to today, and really looking forward to having both of you guys here today, man.
Yeah, man. Excited
for
to
sure.
Chop it up.
Absolutely. So Sean, man, we were doing a lot of talking right before this. I was kind of giving you guys a little bit of a heads up on what the original goal of all this was, which started out kind of like men's mental health. And, we kind of stay there a little bit. But it's more like dads navigating life and just trying to make sure that like their kids are tough and not like spoiled and they're going to be okay when they're older, So we were talking about a few different things that you and Axel have been doing in his wrestling journey and all the sports and school and all sorts of stuff like that. So how's being a dad kind of changed up everything for you?
Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you, like raising Axel and Lola, that's definitely like a fun experiment, right? I'll let you know if I do a good job.
Right.
But I don't know, like when you only had to take care of yourself, you're really, really selfish. And so when you have to take care of other people, you have to give a lot. So I think having Axel was the coolest because he was my first, but they're both really, really different. Like Lola's awesome. She's probably got more my personality. She's a little bit tougher with what she wants. Axel is a little bit more Molly, like a little bit more agreeable, a little bit easier to deal with. So they're both super different, but it's awesome.
Yeah. I was looking at that picture. I was looking at the picture of your daughter this morning. She got a little sassiness going to her there.
And they went to golf camp today. Like I picked up a pair of golf clubs that were hand-me-downs when I was 20. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just
great.
different.
Yeah.
You were saying something about how do you make the kids tough? One of the things that I did that I think like I share a lot with parents, when Axel and even Lola, but when Axel was old enough to like kind of run around, like a little past walking, if he got in trouble or if he did something he shouldn't do, instead of yelling at them or putting them in timeout or, probably worse what my father did, right? I just made him do, in the beginning when he couldn't do push-ups, I made him do sprawls, but they're basically up downs,
nice.
Right? Like burpees. So I'm like, all right, you did X, Y, Z, or you did this, 10 sprawls. And so he would just stand there and do his 10 jumps. And so he doesn't even realize, but he's getting stronger.
Right.
And so now when he gets in trouble, I'll have him do push-ups.
Here.
So, get over here, 20 push-ups. And and that's the punishment. So like the timeout doesn't really work, in my opinion, doesn't really work. And he's got a ton of energy. So like sitting him still just makes it worse coming out of sitting still. So
I'm sure.
I think that's like, and I can see how strong he's gotten.
I'm sure.
From getting punished a lot, but doing push-ups. I mean, there's times where he does 100 push-ups a day. right?
Is that out of getting in trouble, Hondo? Or combination of both? Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
But he's also getting mentally tougher, right?
Yeah,
so like what I was saying off air, you know, a lot of people talking about the next generations, they're getting so soft, and I was always a firm believer growing up, you know, just seeing the wrestling world, like you either got it or you don't. You're either born tough or you're not tough. And me and my brothers, we were always really tough. But what I've come to learn in the last couple of years is that mental toughness and resilience can most definitely be cultivated. Doing stuff like that. Doing, you know what, you're in trouble, you got to do a bunch of hard push-ups and squats or sprawls. And then it starts with us, though, right? Like, what are we doing to build resilience that our kids are going to model? So, like, are they watching us jump in the cold plunge and sit in the sauna? Or are they watching us get up early and work out? All of that stuff is what builds resilience. Doing yard work, chores.
Yeah. I'm not a big yard work guy, but yeah. But yeah, no, you're right, because it's think about mentors that are in your life. Like, you want to be like them, or you want them to be your mentor. You look up to them because you're seeing the things that they're doing and the things that they've accomplished, and they've been there before and they've done that, and they're sharing that with you. So like for my kids, like I've worked out, and this is in big part to Mike DeMarco, but he makes my workouts for me, and I work with him. But I work out every day, probably since, you know, a little before COVID. Every morning at 5:30, I get up. I have a similar workout routine. It changes based on the day, but then I do a sauna and a cold plunge, and every day when I'm done, it's like 10 minutes to 7, and my son and daughter are waking up to get ready for school. So every day they see dad just finishing his workout in a sweat. And if they wake up, they come downstairs, they sit on the couch while I'm working out. So like, it's not even about like, hey, this is important. It's just normal. Just what it's just what
creating that.
They don't know that you don't work out every morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're
You know what I mean?
downloading that, right?
They are.
You know, are they seeing you like lay on the couch all day and eat junk food? Or are they seeing dad gets up early, he works out, does a cold plunge? Like, that's just going to download to their subconscious, and it's going to become second nature. They're naturally going to do it.
Yeah. Totally. And now Molly the other day, she went to grab something in the bathroom, and Axel was standing on the stool, and he was like posing in the mirror, and he was like making big muscles because he's getting strong, and he's seeing his body change a little bit.
Yeah.
And so like, he wants to, like, now he's getting it. Like, he's like,
that.
oh wow, I got like muscles. Like,
I
you know what I
love
mean?
that.
It was
I
cool.
I was looking at my son Mason. He's 9, and he was in the pool. And I'm like, this kid's back is shredded. His arms are shredded. I'm like, oh, and he's starting to know that now. So he's like flexing. And then his little brother's only 4. So he's still got like the little baby belly on and everything. But he's a little tank, and he's flexing with his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
And you can trick him too. Like, I put monkey bars in the basement.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
he
yeah.
thinks he's playing.
Yep.
Right.
I think he's working out.
Right.
We're both satisfied with the
That's all
outcome.
good.
Amazing.
Right? And
Getting
so
that
it's like,
energy out too.
it's that kind of thing. It's like we're both getting what we want. He thinks he's playing, and that we're playing, and I think he's working out, and so we both won.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what I mean?
amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to. So you've got some successful businesses going on. I know the Axel Group. It's won like Business of the Year,
Best places to work.
Best places to work. 40 under 40.
This will be our 5th year. We won Emerging Business of the Year a couple years ago. We were a finalist for Business of the Year last year. Yeah, a couple things.
So obviously, just killing it as an entrepreneur. But I want to know kind of. Well, I'd know it, but I want to share the audience what that looked like coming out of college, getting into the corporate life, working a corporate job, and then what you learned throughout that, and then transitioning into becoming an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur, and then another business.
Yeah, and the successful entrepreneur is like, it's really nice, right? But like behind you guys, it's like Instagram versus reality. Like you see those pictures, it's like, it's not easy. Like it's not, you know, everyone in our company works really hard. Len, who's my partner in both businesses, I mean, he works tirelessly. Like the things that him and I talk about are, like, a lot of times it feels like it's always negative because we're responsible for making decisions and forecasting things that could happen and planning for those. So if they do happen, we have ways to solve for those things. And so you constantly feel like you're dealing with negative things because you're battle testing your business, right? And the things that you're going to come up with. But yeah, man, I wanted a job that was going to pay me a salary because when I graduated college, I had no money.
Sure.
So I needed a little bit of salary. And then I wanted to get a job based on how I did and not how old I was or how long I lived there. Like, that really wasn't for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I've told this story before, but I went to senior prom with my wife, Molly, who was obviously my girlfriend at the time. And this will be in July, actually be our 10th wedding anniversary and our 18th year together. And so she's like, she doesn't get enough credit. She's a huge part of this story. But the deal with her parents was we were together for like 5 years. I had an internship. If I got an internship for the summer, I could live with them.
Okay.
And so her father and mother are really successful. So I'm living with them. And one Saturday morning, he's picking weeds in his driveway. And I'm going into my senior year of college. And I look out the window and I see this guy at 6 a.m. like picking weeds, and he's super successful. I mean, he lived, on Trump's golf course, and he's got literally had 8 bathrooms in the house, right? Like, he doesn't need to pick weeds on Saturday. He could hire somebody to pick weeds.
Sure.
So I'm like, I should go out there. Like, I'm living in this guy's house, eating all his food. Like, I should go help him. So I go out there, and it's like middle of July or early August, and I'm picking weeds, and it's Saturday, and he's like, So what are you going to do when you graduate college? I was like, I should have stayed there. Right away. I was like, And I remember being like, I don't know, I'll pick these weeds in the driveway. I just want to make a lot of money. He's like, well, how much is a lot of money? And I was like, I don't know, 100 grand is a lot of money. Like, and not that it's not a lot of money. I just picked a number that I thought sounded like a lot of money. And he's like, yeah, but what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know, I'll pick the weeds. He's like, all right, you get paid $1 million a year. What are you doing? And I was like, I'm the guy they fly in to like the final meeting in a boardroom. There's like 10 guys in suits, and it's like the 16th floor, and I just flew in, and I'm one of 3 people that are presenting, and they're going to pick one of me or my competitors, and I'm the guy in the boardroom going to give the final presentation. He's like, oh, cool, you want to be in sales? And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, yeah, you just said that. I was like, no, I don't want to be in sales, because sales in my head at 21 was, like ugly sales, like car,
doors,
like bad suit, briefcase, knock on doors, like sleazy sales, like stuff like that, like not what I thought sales was.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you want to be in sales. So I started going on sales interviews, and then I found a staffing firm that basically, I remember in the interview, I was like, so wait, if I get this job, I get a salary? And they're like, yeah. I was like, how do I make money? He's like, the more placements you make, the more money you make. And I was like, well, what if he was here first and I make more placements, who makes more money? They're like, you do. And I was like, well, what if I'm better than him, but he was here for 2 years before me? He's like, you get promoted. I was like, I want that job.
Yeah.
And it was just like wrestling, though. It was like, there's no opinion. There's no moms on the PTA. Dad's the coach. There's no opinion that your kid's a better first baseman than my. We're going to wrestle. Someone's going to win. And there's not a lot of opinion there. So it made sense. I was good at recruiting. I got promoted to sales, and I started a territory that the company did nationally that was getting built up locally. And I remember getting promoted, and these couple people, I can remember their names, these 3 people got promoted at the same time as me, and they took over territories where the person either got quit, fired, or promoted. So they got into these very transactional relationships, but it didn't matter when I was 23 because those transactional relationships were giving them money because they were making commission. I built a territory from scratch. It took me a little longer. And ultimately, it was horrible at the time, but now looking backwards, that's kind of what helped me start my business, because at the end of about 5.5 years, me and the guy who ran that office didn't see eye to eye on some things, and they ended up calling me in on a Monday night and firing me. So, and that's obviously, a whole story in itself. And
that's probably a hidden blessing, though.
And well, at the time it was horrible, but looking backwards, I remember I knew I was going to get fired, because I had gotten tipped off that I was walking in to get fired.
Right.
And I remember walking in and going, just like be in this moment and feel this, because you're not changing it. So just, they think you're going to throw a fit. Right. Because I was like 26 years old. And I probably wanted to throw a fit. And I was like, just don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you throw a fit. Yeah. And I walked in, and they would normally fire you with the boss and another manager. And they had this manager from a North Jersey office who was like kind of a big deal in the region, drive down and fire me with them, like he was going to stop me if I threw a fit. Like neither one of these guys were stopping me if I was throwing a fit. And I just remember being like, I want my non-compete, I want my my bonus check that I was supposed to get, and I want the stuff out of my office.
Dude, they brought in backups for this guy. They thought he was going to go crazy. The Sean that I met when you were 19 probably would have lost it.
Totally.
I mean, you always been a, not to say chippy guy, but you're not somebody who's just going to walk out with your tail between your legs and say, oh, thank you for the opportunity. But I'm glad that you stayed in the present, because I actually sent Dave a video this morning of Jim Carrey, and it was saying exactly that. Stay in the present, whether it's good or bad, stay there. We get so caught up in what the possibilities of the future could hold, or maybe before bed some things that you said in 2003 that you're not really happy about.
Totally.
Right.
That's over. This ain't here yet. Stay right here, good or bad. So
Well,
at 26 years old, that's big time.
Especially because, right then and there, that seems like the worst thing in the world.
It was the worst thing.
Right?
I just started making like real money, like real commission checks.
If, someone could like show you a magic mirror and be like, dude, this this is what you got ahead of you in the next. So like you'd be like, okay, whatever, peace. Like, thanks, guys. Like,
no, you're right. But like at the time, first of all, I was young. Molly had just stopped working. She was 4 months pregnant with Axel, and nobody even knew she was pregnant. So like, also, I just told you how successful her father was, and so she's an only child. So I had to go home and tell my dad, her dad. First person I called was Lenny, right? So we'd been friends for a really long time, right? And like he literally left his house and met me at my house that night.
Good.
And so like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm a tough guy. Like I was upset for longer than I care to share publicly.
How long you think that was?
How long was I upset?
Yeah.
Like
you talking months?
Like 8 weeks. Like I remember the first day I got another job, I went to work and I was like outside of my car, like upset and like I gotta pull it. Dude, what are you doing? You
How long did it take to get to that next job?
I got let go on a Monday night at like say 6 o'clock. By Friday of that same week, I had 15 interviews and like 4 or 5 job offers. Like that night I applied for unemployment at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I'm not like waiting for this to work itself out.
Right.
And the job I ended up taking was because one of my clients called me and had looked for a placement. And I was like, I had gotten let go. And he was like, well, we're looking for a business development person. Like, would you be interested? And we went and interviewed that week. Like I got hired by him. So that's kind of what, and I don't think I did a very good job for them. I think in the beginning I did because I was really trying to. I think towards the end when I figured out, hey, I think I'm going to make this move, I kind of probably took my foot off the gas pretty hard, which is natural, I think. But also, looking backwards, I probably should have worked through the finish line. But this guy was awesome. He runs a really successful company. And he has what I would consider like a lifestyle business. So he wanted to surf in the summertime and ski in the wintertime. And he couldn't find anybody to pay him to do that. So when he was 20-something years old, it was just him. So he made enough money to support him. Then he met a woman. Then he had money to support that. Then he got married. Then he got a house. Then he got a kid. Then he got to college. And so his lifestyle grew. And so his business grew. 25 years later, he had 25 employees. And he had a great life for him. Right. And I was just like, that, first of all, wasn't for me. That's not what I want to have in life. I don't want to have a lifestyle business. But I was like, if this guy can run a business, like, I feel like I can run a business. Like, look what he did. And he's like living life on his terms. And I was just like, I think I can do this. And so I wrote a business plan. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell Molly. Because I was like, I thought for sure everyone was going to be like, you're dumb, your son's 6 months old, your wife doesn't work, you have a job 20 minutes from your house, you work from home on Fridays, like you make good, I was making 6 figures still, but not what I was making.
Made no sense on paper.
Oh, no. Well, we'll get to that, but no, it makes no sense on paper.
Yeah, you gotta be careful who you say that stuff to, because if not to cut you off, but if you shared that with the wrong person at the wrong time, you might have ripped that piece of paper up. Yeah,
and so the first person I told was Molly. And I'm waiting for her to be like, oh, well, we have a kid and we have a mortgage and we have 2 cars and we have this and you're home on Fridays. And she was like, you should totally do that. You'd be great at that. And then I went to her father, right? And he had his own business early, but sold it and then went to work for where he works still now, 35 years later. And that turned out to be a really good decision for him. But I thought he'd be like, yo, you have my only grandson with my only daughter. Like, he's like, dude, you should totally do it. You'd be great at that. Let's go. And then I told Lenny, and Lenny said the same thing. And then 2 weeks later, Lenny came back over to my house and was like, hey, I want to do it with you. Let's go. And I was like, all right, screw it. There's a piece of this story that nobody really knows, that only really Lenny knows and Molly knows. There was a person who was going to do the business with Len and I, who got a piece of it for a certain amount of money. I gave my notice at my job. I quit the job in, end of June, because we were starting in August 1st. So I quit my job. I called him and Lenny, talked to Lenny, called him. He's like, yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you. I can't keep the commitment for the money. And it was like over $100,000. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but we met like 8 times. We wrote a business plan. He's like, yeah, but long story short, he's basically like, you never signed the agreement. Wow. And I was like, I never signed the agreement. I was like, he's like, don't take it personal. I was like, oh no, I took it personal. Don't worry about that. I took it personal. No problem.
We're past that.
Yeah. And I was like, I just quit my job. Like, right now, 1 hour ago.
Right.
And, you know, he was going to own 15% of the business. And, you know, last year we were almost, you know, $7 million in revenue. So, like, he doesn't own 15% of the business, right? Lenny and I own that.
Another hidden blessing.
Yeah, yeah.
Another hidden blessing.
So what had to happen was I didn't get paid from the time August 1st until I took my first like little bonus in December. So I didn't get paid for 5 months when we started the business.
Golly.
Lenny had to keep his job. So Lenny kept his job and worked at night on the weekends. So he didn't get paid at all either. The two guys we hired are still with us, Joey and Connor. They're both directors in our company. Joey's been our top salesperson the last 3 years. Connor is our director of recruiting. They both took salaries below what they were making. And Connor actually had to live with me for about 10 weeks.
Damn.
In like a 1,200 square foot house with Axel as a 10-month-old. And Axel still calls him Uncle Coco because that's all I could say at the time. So like, they're like, because we lost that money, we just had to make do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
you
That's
know,
wild.
I mean, that's like my mantra, man, is life is always happening for you,
Yeah.
not to you,
didn't
right?
feel like it was happening for me.
right.
It definitely felt like
No
it was
doubt.
happening to
but
me.
now you can look back, hindsight, and see how it was most definitely happening for you because you learn, you grew from it, but also now, you know, you get an extra 15% between you guys. That's
Right.
pretty nice. But also, it might not, the business might not have flowed as well having that other person in there.
It
either.
probably
Yeah,
wouldn't have because
right.
Len and I
might not have taken off the way it did.
Me and Lenny make decisions very quickly. We're very good friends. We treat our relationship, you know, very, very much like you'd want to treat like any other really serious relationship where like, we don't get along with everything. We're not perfect. Like
and you guys are
debate.
different.
We're very different. And
Yeah.
what he does, and I think that helps it work. Like
Probably does.
What he does is a different lane than what I do, but they both overlap a little bit, and we trust each other a lot. We never have to wonder if Lenny, you doing everything you're supposed to be doing? Sean, you doing everything you're supposed to be doing? And we're both willing to make sacrifices and rely on each other. And so like Lenny, I mean, outside of Molly and, you know, maybe one or two other people, there's nobody more important to me than Lenny.
That's
Like,
amazing.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's great to
amazing.
have that. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I also feel like when you described your journey prior to Axel, there's a lot of hidden things in there that also make you a valuable boss to these people. Because you said that at one point you had the self-awareness to say, hey, maybe I took my foot off the gas a little bit, which is normal. So now you could be in an instance where one of your employees might have taken their foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah.
Things might have changed. In the beginning, when they first got hired, they needed everything. Now everything's kind of rolling. They put it in neutral a little bit. You know what that feels like. So you can now have that conversation like, hey, I've actually been in your shoes.
You want to know what's funny? I was talking to somebody about this the other day. This is like, I was watching a podcast where there was the podcast is called The Diary of a CEO, and it's really an interesting podcast. And the guy's talking about, there was a divorce attorney on there, and he's talking about this. He was talking about this very successful woman who was getting divorced from her husband, and like, when did you know it was over? Like, was it when the papers got to, like? She's like, you know when I knew it was over? Every morning I had granola in my in the morning in this glass jar in the cabinet, and every morning when it got, you know, every time it got to about this much full left, it would magically get refilled. My husband would go out and he'd fill up the granola for me, and it was nothing, but it was like I liked this granola. And one day I went to the cabinet and the granola was empty, and so I was like, And so I left it there, and it was empty, and it was empty. And like 2 weeks goes by, and it was empty, and it's like, she's like looking backwards, that's when I knew. And so it's funny because the granola really doesn't mean anything. So what I've noticed in my business, because we've lost more people than I wish we did, and we've, you know, I wish things were different with certain people, and I would have done things different, or they would have did things different, or whatever, right? You try to reflect on the things that happen, and so you don't have them happen again. And so like, if you notice something changing about someone, it doesn't mean they're going to quit necessarily, but it means something, right? It could mean something's happening at home with their family or their husband or their wife or their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their mother and father, and there's been a couple instances recently where I didn't take my gut instinct. Cause like, I'll give you an example. Like I'll send a lot of videos out to my staff, or I'll send emails out, and let's say I send PD an email every 3 or 4 days about something motivational. And he normally writes back like, yo, thanks, Sean, I really like that. And then the next time he doesn't write it back. And then the next time he doesn't write it back.
There's that granola.
Yeah.
Nothing, that doesn't mean Petey's going to quit his job.
Right.
But it's out of character for how he normally responds to me. And so it could just mean he's busy this week.
Sure.
But it probably means something.
Yeah.
And it just means you should check on them. And so like, I've looked back after I listened to that podcast, and I'm like, wow, that happened and then this, and then that happened and then this. And we just had someone leave, and I don't think they've ever taken a day off ever. And after the Memorial Day weekend, they and this kid, he's a young guy, likes to go out. And he never takes time off. He comes in with a hangover, he sucks it up, right? And he called out. And I was like, in my head, I'm going, that's really weird. And 3 weeks later, he gave me his notice, right?
Yeah.
And so that probably didn't mean anything, but you know what it meant? He probably used to come to work with his hangover and go, I'm going to deal with this because I want to do what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. I want to be here. And when he didn't, he kind of made his mind up that he took his foot off the gas. He was probably like, I ain't dealing with this hangover today in that office. You know what I mean? So it's like, I thought that was really insightful, the granola thing, because it's a call to action a little bit. Like, you should check on that person.
That's
right?
great.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about when you were first putting that business plan together. You went to Molly, you went to Len, and you went to Molly's father. Is it important to have that core group of people? Like, for someone that's thinking about starting their own business, there's a lot of daunting thoughts about it. Am I going to fail, or are there people going to judge me?
You're definitely going to fail. People are going to judge you. I can tell you that for sure.
So talk a little bit about, what's the kind of mindset that you could have? What's some advice you could give to someone that they kind of feel like they're being called to become an entrepreneur, but they're also scared?
What do you want out of entrepreneurship? Because people think it's cool to be an entrepreneur, because of the internet, or they look at these nice things. I can tell you 1,000 things that make it not cool.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So I would say, why are you doing it? And what are you trying to get from it? And what are you trying to give back from it? And so I would want to talk to that person about that. But I would also say that if you think you can do it, what's the very worst thing that's going to happen? Which I say this with some confidence right now, but this would be terrible, and I wouldn't feel good about it, and it would be hard. But the very worst thing is that it doesn't work and I have to go get a job somewhere. You have a job anyway.
Right.
So now you can game plan for this, because when I started that business with no money, that was somewhat forced on me. So it was somewhat lucky that I had made decent money at my previous job and saved it. And because I grew up with some version of no money, I had PTSD for money. So if I got $10, back then, because I was living with her parents, I saved $8. Sure. And that was a big blessing. They let us live there. They paid, for food, and every trip we went on when I was, 19 to 23, they paid for everything I did, right? Yeah. Not because I was with their daughter and we were together for a long time, and they were just, that's how they were, right? They were just yeah, Sean's coming with us, so we'll figure it out. So I would say if you're thinking about doing something, you should try it. Yeah. I think there's different ways. Some people should dip their toe in and try it a little bit and see how it goes. And some people like me, I can't dip my toe in anything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I have to quit and go, and because when that's how I've looked back, and I wish it wasn't this way, but every time something went seriously wrong, I responded really, really well in my life with growing up, or when I got fired or whatever. So I've always performed really well with my back against the wall. It doesn't bother me. I'm almost in a comfort zone in a sense, where I'm very dialed in on these things need to happen. I've also, like you said, hey, does it help having Lenny and Molly and Pat? Molly just lets me be me. The easiest thing I do in my life is be with Molly. So I don't have
It's always been like that. It was like that when you were at J-Woo.
Yeah, that's 2007.
Yeah, I know.
Her and I just always, I was who I was, and she was who she was, and we just got along, and it was never meant to be for 20 years, and so, but there was never a reason not to be.
Yeah.
And then by the time you're together 4, 5, 6 years, you're just wow, this is what it's supposed to be like.
And I love that Molly, I'll see Molly now. She has that same organic smile.
Yeah, she's
so true to her. You're so true to you. You guys are different, just like you and Lenny are different.
Way different.
It works out amazing.
She's a good level for me because I'm not.
I'm sure.
She's just my old house, the basement flooded one time, and I was downstairs MFing cleaning it up, and I was pissed and just bad mood. And I remember the maddest you could be. And I remember just in the back, she goes, well, at least it's not maple syrup. I was like, yeah, Molly, at least the 3 inches of water in the basement is not maple. That would be worse if it was maple syrup. Like, you know what I mean? She has like, there's definitely a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, like personality. And I have someone's trying to steal the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow mentality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't like, back to like your question about if somebody should start a business, I think you should take calculated risk. And if, you know, if whoever you're doing it with is in or, you know, you're making decisions for your wife, like you, right? If you did it or you did it, you're making decisions for your wife and kids too. Like as long as everybody's on board and marching in the same direction, it has a shot to be successful.
For sure.
And entrepreneurship doesn't mean you own a big business or a small business, or it could be that, you know, you have a little coffee stand on the weekends and you make an extra couple $100 and like that relieves the pressure.
Definitely.
And that's okay. And you keep your job. Like that's totally fine too. Like it doesn't mean you quit and you're the, you know, owner or like I don't even call myself the CEO. My title's managing partner. I think it's like, what am I the CEO of kind of? I think it's like when I get to a certain amount of employees, maybe one day, but I don't know. It's like, it doesn't mean you own a whole business, like where it's like, oh, it's a company. It's like you could be you own a wrestling club.
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say that's where I'm at. Like, I have my full-time job.
Yeah.
It's, you know, 1099, but you know, that's my full-time thing. And this is kind of like the little coffee shop that like I love, and it's been working out great. I'm not just gonna say don't call me for a mortgage anymore because I got the coffee shop now. Like I'm not there.
No, but maybe one day you will be, or maybe one day you won't be, or maybe one day you'll have someone else run it. It'll be a second side of, you know, second stream of income or
that
whatever.
I just did it. I'm thrilled that I went for it, because I easily could have been the one guy that you're kind of talking to that could be weighing out his options and maybe talking to the wrong person, because I was the guy talking to the wrong person. I worked for this mortgage company years ago that everybody was way older than me. And right around COVID, I was talking about this anti-dad bod movement that I wanted to create. Right? So I'm just talking about it. So I'm just talking about it. And I'm like, yo, we don't got to conform to dad bod. And I got all this energy stored. I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm doing Zoom workouts with the wrestlers just every day for like 60 days. And I end up saying to this one guy, I'm like, you know, I'm really feeling this anti-dad bod thing. And he goes, what about moms? And like once he said, what about moms? I'm like, I'm not a mom. Like I'm a dad. Like we can do workouts with our kids and everything. My point is though, I said it to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Right.
And it kind of defeated everything.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I guess I'll just do mortgages. And kind of just drove home, and you know, it took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah, but you're probably, however much extra money you're making is probably part of the good part of this, but like the relationships you're getting with the kids and the parents and the way, like we were talking before, like how like going there de-stressed you and like got your mind off of it. The only thing that gets my mind off of, you know, problems I'm solving, and I don't want to say that in a negative way, just that's my role, is to solve problems and foresee problems and solve them in the future.
Which is a valuable role in all industries.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean but that's the job of my job, is to make sure that we're delivering today and we're delivering tomorrow, right? You know, and to see the things that could happen. So you're constantly dealing with challenging things or negative things or whatever. So when I go to wrestling practice though, like for that 90 minutes or whatever it is, like my phone's not really in my pocket usually. I'm with my son almost all of the time unless I'm at, you know, CBA. And even then he comes with me a lot. And I'm focused on that kid and that interaction and that technique. And so it just gets my mind off of it for 90 minutes. And so, you know, in all the places I coach, I volunteer. And so it's not really about that, but it gives me my de-stress. And so the money that I make in my businesses allows me to be able to spend that time for free, right? Because if I didn't, I'd have to get a job, or I'd have to have something else, or I'd have to make ends meet. And so since I can do that without it, I get to give that time back, and they can spend that money on other coaches or other things.
So I actually have a question. You got Axel Group going, and it's been so successful. Then you get the new business going, Belmore Tiki Boat.
Yeah, the Tiki Boat.
Now you just bought a second boat.
Yeah.
Or are you about to say maybe a third boat?
Okay, let's go. Maybe. Anytime Sean says maybe, it's a yes, by the way, not to cut you off.
It's already in the works.
It's in the works.
How do you balance, you know, being a husband, being a dad, being a managing partner at Axel Group, starting this other businesses? Like, how do you find that balance?
Well, before I say that, the boats is really Lenny's brainchild. Like
Okay.
Lenny had that great idea. I would do, if Lenny said we should start selling rocks somewhere, right? I would just say, all right, fine. How much is it, and when are we doing
Gotcha.
it, right?
Yeah.
So like Lenny's great at running and operating businesses, and that was his idea, and he's doing a great job with all that. Myself and Tommy, help with the social media and run that side and get the word out. But Len is crushing that business, and
That's awesome.
I'm helping him where I can. So I talk a lot about in my office. I hate work-life balance. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. I like work-life balance to me when people hear that or they say it. Again, right, we own a staffing company, so we do job interviews, and a lot of people talk about work-life balance. And when I hear work-life balance, I hear two separate things. There's work, and then there's life. And that, I just don't know how anybody could operate in an environment where they're so separate that they can't intertwine, and that you cut them and you don't do any of the other one. Because if in a work-life balance environment where the employee is like, hey, or the person's like, I only want to deal with work while I'm at work, and then when I'm out of work, I don't want to deal with that. If you get 15 PTO days and you need to take a PTO day because something happens with your family, in a work-life balance environment, should I just let you go do that and pay you extra for the things that we didn't agree to before we started our employment relationship? Because when I'm gonna need you at night on Tuesday, you don't answer your phone. So
Which one is it?
So I hate work-life balance. Yeah. I think people should strive to have work-life harmony. And I've said this on other places.
Yeah.
Because when your work and your life are in connection with each other and complement one another, they're both good. Because you guys probably know if you're fighting with your kids and your wife, you're not going to be yourself at work.
Yep.
If you're fighting with your coworkers and your work's not going well and you're not hitting your numbers,
Same thing at home.
You're going to go home in a bad mood and fight with your wife and your kids.
No doubt.
And so these things will never be in balance with each other. And it's not work-life balance when I say that, when I say work-life harmony, where I want you to work all the time, I don't want you to take care of your family. I'm saying that all of it has to be in harmony with one another for it to be really successful.
I like
That's the goal. It's not to have work-life balance. It's to have a work and life that complement one another and give to each other. Because you don't have like friend life balance and wrestling life balance and video game life balance and kid life. Like you have life and you have important things in it, and they all need to work together, right? So
yeah, that's great.
So I hate work-life balance. I think it's really, really stupid. And when people actually think about their life and the important things in it, think about the most important things, right? Your job, your family, your health, your home, your finances, things like that. And so they all have to complement each other. So I want you to spend time with your family. I want you to go to the play on Tuesday or the graduation or the soccer game in the summertime or take a week off and go to the beach with your family. I also want you to hit your numbers. Sure. And I also want you to answer your phone on Wednesday, the one time I need to talk to you at 6:45. Yeah. When you're at dinner, I need you to answer your phone for 5 minutes so we can accomplish something so that you can continue to have this balance that you strive for.
Right.
I like that. Yeah.
And so we do some things like we have unlimited PTO where, there's been some people that have taken advantage of that, of course, like anything else you give, right? Sometimes people will take advantage, but our employees have been really respectful of that generally, and it allows them the freedom to, if I have to track your hours of how many hours you've worked, we have different problems. Yeah. Right. And so like we have some employees right now, like, I have a guy in my office who works his tail off, and he's awesome. And he's like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. He hasn't been down this road this far yet. So I don't think he quite sees it. And we've been talking about this. Like I know he's closer to the end than the beginning. Yeah. He probably still feels like he's in the beginning or or marching uphill. And he just had his third kid, and and it's a newborn, so he's like in the fight of I don't have sleep, and my wife's also tired, and all these things, and he's doing a good job fighting through that, and like they need to get on the same page. So he might need to stay late at work some nights. He might need to leave early and help her some nights, and all that is harmony. That's not balance. Those things are working together.
And I feel like the harmony that you're describing is going to equal hitting the numbers, because if you go to the week vacation with the family that you suggest, that's going to get you recharged, and you're probably going to come back with the right energy and probably going to hit the numbers. Right. So I think that harmony goes hand in hand with that individual success. That their success.
I would just say, ask yourself, right? If you fight with your family or your finances are out of order, are you happy, and are you stressed or not stressed? Yeah. And then when you go to a different environment, wrestling practice, work, does that go away, the financial stress and the fight with your family? No. If you're at work and you're fighting with your boss because you're not hitting your numbers and you're constantly getting pressure from home to come home on time for dinner because I have to get there this second and I can't finish my assignment and my boss is looking at me. Now I'm stressed when I'm leaving work. I'm getting home. I'm not in a good mood because I know I didn't. So like objectively, work-life balance doesn't work. Like it doesn't work. Work-life harmony works where things are,
I like that
working
a lot.
together.
Yeah.
Have you had any mentors along the way? Do you think that's necessary to be successful to have mentors?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think you definitely got to have mentors. I think you need, and they come at different phases in your life and they impact you at different times. I mean, I could go just people that rattle off in my brain. Like, obviously, I look up to my dad for some work ethic stuff. Like he had 2 jobs when my mom left when I was like 15. She left and wasn't around. And
she left, wasn't around,
she came back and forth a little bit. She had a bad alcohol addiction that she still has, and she was somewhat of aggressive with that. And so she wasn't around, and then I haven't spoken to her probably in, I don't know, since I was like 19 probably. Okay. So, but my dad, we didn't have health benefits when she left. So back then he went to work at UPS. So he started working at UPS at 2 o'clock in the morning for like $7 an hour, whatever minimum wage was in, 2000, 2001, 2002, whatever it was. And then he would paint all day. He also had me, my brother, and my sister, and I was the oldest, and I was like 15-ish. So my sister put her at 12, my brother's at 9. So like he went to work at 2 a.m. and got home at 6 p.m. I got to get everybody ready for school. Yeah. We all had to get ourselves up. So like...
See how all that stuff plays into his success, though?
Oh, yeah.
That's the
No
stuff,
doubt.
So like we work... So like, I watched his work ethic, but he still didn't really have 2 nickels to rub together until more recently.
Right.
Because you weren't making any money. You were doing it for health benefits.
Right.
And then, then I met Molly's father. And then I go, oh, he also works his ass off, but he has 8 bathrooms. This seems way better than that. So, couple different decisions, couple different influences, couple different relationships.
Yeah.
Coach Bischoff was really important to me when my father was doing all that. He kind of kept me straight, got me out of a couple trouble. Nothing crazy, just knucklehead stuff in high school, and looked out for me. And
good.
He's been a big influence in my life. And then you meet people along the way. I think I look up to Molly in the way that she handles tough situations and how she handles the kids. I look up to Lenny and how he deals with his family and how he helps his brother and his dad and people in his family. Like, his one sister's a doctor, his other sister's a nurse. His brother is the controller of a really successful construction company. They all look up to him. They go to him for advice, right? Yeah. His dad's involved in the tiki boats because he worked in the marina for his whole life driving one of the big fishing boats. So now he's a business owner. And, so I look up to him. And then there's a couple people in business. There's, Bill Parkhill owns a company, Mid-Atlantic Engineering. That was like literally one of my very, very first, if not my first client.
That's cool. Wow.
He comes to my office. I was just actually at his beach house in Wildwood. Like, he has 5 kids under 14. He's got several businesses. Like, anytime I call him, he answers his phone, gives me advice. Another guy, Richard Barnhart, out of Philadelphia, who's like uber successful, owns a really big company. He's taken a liking to me, and he's just kind of like been an ear to. And there's other people I'm sure I'm missing, but like, those kind of people come and go at different phases of your life, and they're all influential. Awesome. It doesn't have to be like a formalized mentorship. Like, I learned things from Bischoff, where he was my wrestling coach.
Yeah,
but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, when I was first kind of getting on like my personal growth journey, ramping it up probably about 5 years ago, I kept reading about like you got to have like a mentor, you got to surround yourself with the right people, and I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. And then I was like,
to go find one.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, wait a second. All these books that I'm reading, all these podcasts that I'm listening to, like these people are mentoring me right now. It doesn't have to be, like you said, that formal relationship.
Yeah.
So like, if you're like me, who you feel like you need to find those people, first of all, they are out there. Just start. I pray. I prime my brain like I'm surrounded by positive, uplifting, successful people. I write that down, so my brain starts scanning for the environment. So when I see someone, it's like, boom, you're successful. You're gonna be my mentor. But in the meantime, there's so much wealth out there now, in audiobooks and podcasts and regular books. Those could be your mentors. You don't need that formal relationship.
Well, it's funny because when I listen for a long time, like back to the granola thing, in my head I go, oh, that person didn't like my Instagram post, right? Like, this sounds stupid. If you went up to them, like, why didn't you like my Instagram? You'd be like, oh, you psychopath?
Right. How many times I thought you get rational?
What kind of loser are you, right?
Yeah.
But then you hear the granola story and you go, it's not, it's just something.
Yeah.
And it's just out of character for that person, right? And so it's not, oh, they're going to quit their job. It's like, oh, you should check on them. Something is different. Now, could it be a one-off where right, but like, and that's just a very minor example.
Sure. No, that's such
but
a
but you feel,
example.
I feel crazy.
Because I hear the granola both thing. Of your guys' faces in my notifications on my likes, no matter what I put up. You guys see mine no matter what you put up.
Right.
So if for some reason, you don't see me in your likes, you're like,
yo,
where's Peter?
Yeah. And it might not be that you're mad at Sean. It might be you're going through a really tough time. And like, what's going on with him, right?
I could just be swiping because I'm like depressed and I'm like envious or something. Wow. That's a powerful message for 2024. Right? That's a great example for right now, the world that we live in.
I've been telling people in my office that I shared that story with. I just say, granola. Right, because we talk to a candidate, right, and we're working with them through the process, and they're always really communicative. And then you give them a job offer, and you call them the next night to talk about it, and they don't answer, but they've answered every other time.
Right,
it doesn't mean they're going to decline it. It's just something.
There might be
they
another
got cold
job
feet.
lingering.
They might have another job lingering. They might have got a counter offer. Their wife or husband might not be happy with the offer they have. They might have cold. It just means something.
Yeah,
and when but. Before, I never told anybody like, oh, I saw this person didn't like it, because it sounds crazy, but then you hear that story and you're like, granola, and you're like, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm actually right.
Yeah.
I just need to like figure out how to have that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little. So we've been talking about you've been on like I think it's fair to say a little personal growth journey over the last couple of years.
Totally.
With your health and fitness, and you've done some of the water fasting. Just talk a little bit about that. What's kind of sparked that, and maybe also a little bit how your mindset changed. I shared that Robin Sharma podcast with you, and you were talking different to me than a previous Sean. So
I think I've tried to grow in general, and I think like we talked about mentors like Mike DeMarco, who owned Motives and now has a separate company doing like corporate wellness and things like that. He kind of helped me get on that like healthy journey, because I had hurt my back several years ago, and like I was just like, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm never gonna golf again. I guess I'm not gonna go for runs again. I guess I'm whatever. And then he's like, I think we can fix this. And then so for 6 years I was great. I just re-aggravated a little bit, which happens with this kind of a herniation, and whatever, I'll get back. So, and I'm on that path now. But I was just, I felt like my business was growing, and there was more people looking at me from a leadership standpoint, including now my kids are getting older, so they understand things. And even my wife, who, always grew up and was, fit, and then she had 2 kids. And so, she's a little self-conscious on how she looks, and I think she's beautiful, and I don't really care how she looks, right? I love her then, I like her now. And so I'm like, I can't just keep telling my son to work out. I can't keep telling Molly to work. I need to like, I just need to do it, and then they'll come with me, and they do. And Molly's on a great path, and she's doing her Pilates and all this stuff that she likes, and I can see her energy gets picked up. And now Axel's seeing both of us doing. Lola's now. I'm not a big like, I got to see someone that looks just like me to do it, but like Lola's seeing mom do it instead of just dad do it, and so like it adds another layer.
Definitely.
But I was like, I already do a lot of things I feel like I should do. I work out, like we said, sauna, cold, all these different things. I wake up early, consistent. I think consistency is a big thing. I'm very consistent with a lot of things I do. I come in every day at the same time after I drop the kids off at school, and then I drive to work. I meet with people in the morning. I make my to-do. I have a lot of things that I do that I think are keys to like, I don't have to think anymore. They're just like automatic.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta like, I need something, right? Like, and so I was like, if I actually said to you and maybe 2 or 3 other people, I was like, I need to stop drinking for a whole year. Not because drinking is a problem, but I drink on Friday, so I don't work out on Saturday, and then I drink on Saturday, so I eat a pork roll and cheese on Sunday. And then all of a sudden I was great all week, but now I ruined it on Friday from 4 p.m. to Sunday at 8 p.m. And so I'm like, I need like something. And I couldn't commit to a year. And so I did 90 days, I fasted. So I only ate from 12 to 8, no drinking, no nothing else. Gallon of water a day, my workout, and then I wanted to work in a couple other things. So like when I did that, I did a 86-hour water only fast.
Damn.
Yeah, it was honestly it was the first like 12, 14 hours was hard. Like the first day at lunch was harder almost. And I did the whole thing. I worked out each day. I drank a ton of water. I didn't have anything in the water. I didn't have coffees. I had the first day I had a black cup of coffee and it like turned my stomach a little bit. I had like 3 sips and I didn't have anything. So 86 hours, I literally had water. And now I had been doing that fast for almost 90 days. I did end up doing that whole thing I just talked about for 90 days. And on with 2.5 weeks left, I did that 86-hour water fast. And I had already went from like 244 to like 226, 228 with nothing changing. I didn't change anything. I just stopped eating after 8 p.m. And because I wasn't drinking, I didn't eat at 11 o'clock on Saturday. And I didn't have pork roll on Sunday. And so I didn't kill myself with the weekend. So I didn't do anything. I just was fitter. And then that water fast, I don't think I've been under 220 since I wrestled 215 as a junior or sophomore in high school. So like 2004, 2005.
That's amazing.
And I got to 218 on that. Now, everyone goes, oh, it's water. No, during the water only fast, I was drinking like 1.5 gallons of water a day, if not more. And since then, that ended on my birthday, so May 11th.
Okay.
I'm still 224, 225. So like, I'm still even lower than I had been prior to the water fast.
Noticeable difference when you came walking in earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I noticed it. The last time I saw you was probably when we were running last summer. It's probably been a full calendar year. Oh, no, I probably saw you in the winter here and there.
Sure.
Here and there. But seeing you walking in, I could literally see it as you came in.
My black shirt helps.
Nah, dude, stop with that. I love it.
It's habits. It's just so important. You know, Ed Sheeran got that song, The Bad Habits Lead to Late Nights. You know, that's what it is. You're drinking. Next thing you know, you're staying up late. Next thing you know, you're waking up later.
Exactly.
You're eating like shit.
And your workout suffers a little bit when you have, even if you have 3 glasses of wine.
If you even work out at all at that point, a lot of people, you have the discipline.
I don't miss.
But a lot of people fit that realm of like, I'm not going to go
But it's not going to be as good as it would be fresh.
And it doesn't move the ball.
Right.
So, but yeah, I did that, and I probably. I'm not committed to this. I don't want to replay this in like 6 months.
Run it back.
I probably need to do a whole year because in order to take my personal life and my businesses and myself to where I want to go in my mind and where I've written down and what I think I can accomplish, I need an extended period of time without distractions because during that fast, I was a little weak at the end. Like I could definitely feel like tired is a bad word. I just felt like slow, I guess. Yeah. But my mind was
dialed.
Clear. Yeah. Like I was, and I think I always thought that was kind of bullshit a little bit. And like actually after doing it, like from hour 60 to hour 86, I had more focus and energy than I've had
That's what I've heard.
Ever.
Yeah.
But like when we were in college, you barely drank. And if you did, it was like super casual.
I didn't drink a lot. And
what do you think is holding you back from that 1 year commitment personally?
Because I like having a glass of wine. I like
a glass of wine.
I like having a glass of wine. I like having a martini. I like that.
It's never a lot for you though.
No,
like,
but like listen.
I
went out in college like everybody else. I get smacked on a Saturday night, and every now and then, like if I go on a weekend with a buddy or something, or have a bunch of drinks, right? Like anybody else. But I like having a martini and a glass of wine with Molly, and so like not that we wouldn't enjoy each other's company because during the 90 days she kind of did it too. She only had a couple of drinks for that period of time. I don't know. I like going to restaurants and at the bar and having a martini.
I get it. Listen, I totally get it. I just at this point have been disconnected from alcohol for so long that's why I was kind of asking, like, just like, what is like that one thing? Because now, after all this time, I have mad beef against alcohol. Like, mad.
But did alcohol
beef.
cause you friction? Because alcohol has not, other than my mother, for me personally, it never caused me any friction.
The beef is not specific to me that it keeps building and festering over the years. I just notice what it does to other people, and that's what's been bothering me about it. And also the beef comes from the way society portrays it. And now the beef continues to build.
And cool and all that.
Corona commercial. They don't show the guy passed out, missing work the next day. They show him on the beach.
Totally.
Oh, dude, what happened the whole night, bro? Run the whole thing back.
Yeah.
But now the beef comes from all the people who reach out to me and tell me how they're feeling and their relationship with alcohol and what that does to their life. You're not in that situation. You're just looking to kind of be better and maybe do the year.
I just want, and I'll tell you, me and Dave have been friends for a long time. Doing this.
Nike.
me and Dave have been friends for a long time, and I think we always had a good relationship. But I would say, since his journey and like me trying to be better, I kind of like the stuff he's posting. I read it and I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that. It's like the granola thing. It's like, oh, I'm not crazy. That somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and him and I'll chat a little bit, and he'll say something to me, and I'll say something to him, and it's like, me and you have done that too. And like, I just think, somebody will hear your story and go, oh, I'm not crazy. That I'm whatever. And so, for me, for like the alcohol thing, I think it just. I do, like, if you were to like see where else I could get dialed, I'm not perfect by any means, obviously, but like I do work out and I do generally eat well, and I do spend a lot of time with my kids, and I go to date night every Friday with my wife. We get a babysitter every Friday from the time college is out until the end of September. We try very hard not to miss that, and it's not just her and I go out and not talk to, like, me and her spending 3.5 hours together by ourselves for sure. And so like I do a lot of things that I want to do, and I just think that like to deal with stressful things and things that are hard, I need more consistent energy all the time, and alcohol takes away from that.
That's the thing with me. It's like I'll drink every now and then, but it has to be really like a wedding, because I'm like, how much of that next day am I willing to sacrifice? Sure. I really don't. I'm very valuable on time. Like that's a big value for me.
You long for those mornings, the sunlight, the 4:30 wake up, the workout, the cold plunge. Like that's part of your day.
My peace, man.
If you take that out of your day because you were at the wedding and you party till 3 a.m. or whatever it may be, what does that next day look like for you? I don't even know. It's been a while. Like, have you had one of those days?
I mean, I haven't, not to where I was up late, but I have where, tied one on. It was like 12 o'clock at night, which is really late for me. And then I wake up hungover, and then feeling the anxiety. But I also know that, okay, this is a biological thing.
Right.
This
it's
anxiety.
like that anxiety we were talking about.
Right, it's biological.
Do you start to get to that at any point, that anxiety feeling?
If I do it too many, if I have too many drinks, I just went to Cape May, and like we went on Wednesday. So like Tuesday night I had a drink with Molly. Wednesday night I had a drink at Cape May. Thursday night I had a drink. Friday I went to my buddy Bill's house. I had a drink. Saturday I had a drink. So, right. And so like by day 4, you're like, ugh. I'm still on vacation, but you're like, I could use a water.
Yeah. So I know that, my dopamine's depleted, which is the feel good chemical. So I'm like, okay, this is a biological thing right now. I have to do my routine. I got to go outside, journal outside, talk about what I'm grateful for, work out, do all. It's just a later start, and it's a little,
So how did Axel's employees all respond to Dave being there that day?
Everybody loved Dave.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I think no one really knew what to expect when he came in. And I
bet.
And, I definitely think some of my employees probably, when I preach some of this stuff, think I'm like, you're annoying, you're out of your mind. Like,
but then when he comes in and reiterates something, or it's similar, it's like, oh.
Well, think about when you coach a kid in wrestling, and the dad's been like, I've been telling him this, and then he hears it from Coach Petey, and like, he's like, oh, do this? He's like, oh, wow, that works.
All the time.
So I think everybody was really impressed with they don't know him as I know him.
Right.
And so I was the most impressed because I see it online, but I don't hear it and watch it. Like, just like he had what he wanted to talk about. He did it exactly in rhythm. I'm sure he probably made mistakes but you couldn't tell he made a mistake.
Right.
And it was awesome. And he connected with a lot of people, and they were like, oh. And it just because you think these things, everybody thinks these things, especially if they're on a path to trying to be a successful version of themselves. And so when they hear him speak, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you called me after Raritan? And you kind of thought you dropped the ball? That was one of your first ones.
Yeah.
Did you feel a lot better in front of them than you did that day? Good.
Night and day. So like Nooch asked me to like speak to the kids, which those were all great. And then like kind of like last minute he asked me to speak to the parents, and like I was like had nothing prepared. I wrote something down.
Guy.
Yeah, I'm a prep guy. That's where I find my confidence is through preparation. So I'm like up there with a paper, and then I'm also like looking at the audience, and I'm seeing some looks, and that's like throwing me off. But now that I know, like, look, you're gonna get looks because you're saying some convicting stuff, right? So like stay true to your message, but also I prepped for Sean's. Like I went in there very prepared, and that's where I found my confidence. So it was night and day between.
Amazing. Amazing. That's great to hear, though. And I'm glad that you continue to get in front of people too, and you didn't let that one day that I think went way better than you probably anticipated in your mind.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you didn't just sit there and say, "Oh, you know what? Maybe speaking in front of people
I would
isn't
have
for
him
me."
back.
You know?
I would have him back.
I
for
can
sure.
imagine.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and Dave's literally been saving lives, changing lives. Like we got this guy Matty Trost, and he puts up videos all the time, and you've literally like saved that guy. And
man,
like,
you know what? And I tell Matt this. I didn't save anybody. You know, you're doing it. You're saving yourself. I'm just I'm helping out, most definitely, kind of guiding you. But I'm not saving anybody.
Exactly.
Anybody that's willing to take my advice, they're putting in the work. They're saving themselves. You know, and I have to tell my clients that a lot. Like they want to say, like, you saved me. I'm like, no, don't give me that. Like you did this, which is really, really cool because Matt, he is just man. He does whatever I tell him to. He and you know, from day one, I told him like, how do you like view yourself right now? And he was going into self-doubt and low confidence and all this stuff. And I was like, well, you know, your subconscious, it feels a need to stick to an identity. So if you're telling it that right now, it's going to look for reasons to keep that.
Yep.
So, but the cool thing is like, what do you want it to be? You know, do you want to be someone successful and confident and, you know, in shape? Right now, start being that person right now, and he walked in to own that.
He had that right now mentality here.
Yeah,
when he was here, we were talking about running. He said, "Oh, I'm thinking about getting into running." Blah blah blah. The dude went for a run the next day.
Yeah,
and now he's been running like every single day.
Just so disciplined. He's willing to learn, willing to grow, and he's just gonna keep on going, man. I love it. I love watching it.
Yeah, for sure. So, Sean, what do you think really, like, aside from that, like, hour and a half, like, in the wrestling room, like, what do you think, like, within you has pulled you to continue to give back to the sport?
Well, I think it's changed, like, now that my son's into it.
Right. But even prior to that, you were around Shore for a long time.
I volunteered at Shore.
You were involved with Rutgers.
I volunteered at Shore for 10 years, with Dave, who's awesome. And he was great, too, because he whenever I'm around somebody that lets me be myself, for better or for worse, like, that's where I really thrive. And, like, Dave came in, like, he's the head coach for, I think he's been there 25 years now or something crazy like that.
He was just actually the coach of the year for the girls softball. I just saw that come up yesterday.
That's funny.
I know.
He's awesome. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
I know.
But he, you know, he's like an awesome high school wrestling coach. And, like, that program prior to me being there, and this is not because of me, but it had limited success. It's a 500-person school. It didn't have a wrestling culture.
Right.
And so when I started working with them, they had a good crop of kids coming in. Like, I got there at the right time. It had nothing to do with Sean. Dave had got his, you know, ass kicked for 14 seasons or however many. So he's got this great group of kids coming in. They're all going to be state qualifiers. They just won the Jersey Shore League in the middle school.
Wow.
You know, some of those kids actually ended up transferring. One went to Blair. A couple went to other schools in the area. But they had a good crop of kids. 3 of them, Mikey, Al, and Jack Maida, are all wrestling in Division I right now.
Yep.
So,
awesome.
And then Gabe Scalise is wrestling at RIT in Division III, and a bunch of other kids are playing other sports. So they had a good crop of kids coming in. You would think that coach wants his turn. Like, he's been getting his ass kicked for so long, and we won a state sectional title. We had multiple years. I think there was like 5 or 6 years in a row where we had multiple state qualifiers, multiple people in the Shore Conference finals. Like, he never wanted to be in the corner. If you were better for that kid, like, he let you coach and, like, he let you run practice or show a move, or he had no ego at all. Like, he wasn't like, I lost for so long, now we're gonna win, and now it needs to be about me. He was like, what's best for the kids? And he put them in position. So, like, Dave taught me a lot of, because I probably before Dave would have wanted to be in the corner every time. And now with Dave, I watch Billy at CBA. You watch him wrestle in states or at big tournaments, he might not even be in the corner a lot of times. A lot of times he's letting Ray or Vinny or Hayden or whoever coach, and he's off to the side because like he doesn't care about being in the newspaper or the spotlight. And neither did Dave. And you know, Dave taught me a ton about coaching high school wrestling and like just a bunch about, you know, he's a great father. Dave's awesome. So like I learned a lot from Dave, and he really let me be myself. And I don't think if I had coached with anybody other than Dave right away that I would have liked it. And he kind of reignited that spark for me. And then, you know, from there, I also really like it. Like, it taught me a lot. When I was growing up and had some hard times, all my best friends wrestled, and wrestling took me to a lot of places and met a lot. I mean, that's how I met the two of you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, took me to a lot of places, and so, like, I know, and also we were talking about, like, how do we make our kids resilient? Like, knock on wood, we have a nice life that my wife and I are building, and they won't deal, the same things that taught me resilience hopefully won't be there to teach Axel and Lola resilience.
Right.
And so, like, what a better sport than wrestling to teach Axel resilience.
No
like,
doubt.
You're gonna lose a lot, most of the time. And practices are hard. Like, the practice is a fight. You're it's a fight, and it's sweaty, and it's hot, and it hurts, and you're twisted, and so, like, the whole sport is resilience, right? Like,
100%.
And so, right, it's like we keep saying at the office, like, they keep making fun of me because they don't like all my wrestling jargon, but I'm like, don't worry about how that call went. Just score the next point. Just score the next point. And so that's kind of how life goes a little bit. And so with Axel, like, if he's not going to get resilience the same way that I got resilience, then where do I find it for him? Right. And so it's like putting him in difficult spots around good people that will help him get through it. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome this winter that he had a tough Saturday and you brought him over to the club on Sunday because you knew that'd be a good spot to build him back up.
Yeah, I thought
that
it would be
great.
Like sometimes you need to listen. Sometimes you need to jump right back into it and have a positive experience. Sometimes you need a little bit of a break. Like, you got to kind of. I always say too, like, you got to know your horse a little bit. Yeah, right.
Like, it's almost like wrestling dad harmony he's got going on.
Yeah. I don't know if he's got any. There's no balance. We wrestle a lot, but
harmony.
But you know what? I look at it this way. If at 7 years old, because that's how old my son is, he can go to school every 5 days a week, and he can do math 5 days a week, and read 5 days a week, and do science 5 days a week, and do whatever else he's doing in school 5 days a week. How come I can't wrestle 5 or 6 days a week and do physical fitness and self-confidence and learn how to defend yourself and be around my friends? And why can't I do that 6 days a week?
Yeah.
I hate that, like, the burnout thing. They don't even know what that word means.
Right.
You're burnt out. You don't want to drive them there. Right. Or like, they're not into it, and you're not, or you're too into it, or what, like, Axel's not going to get burnt out. He likes it. We're having fun.
Exactly.
We're going to make it fun.
But that's back to knowing the horse, though.
Right.
Like, that's Axel.
We were definitely.
You try to go that same road with somebody that doesn't have that same mentality that you have. That, what did you say, that they're working for you?
Yeah. So
if the household isn't on those terms, and now you're on that same 5 day a week approach, there's gonna be some beef, dude.
Sure.
Or there's not gonna be.
All of a sudden he starts wrestling 100, 200 matches a summer. That's gonna get burnt out.
No, listen, Axel does the wrestling mindset with Jeans and Eddie.
Yeah.
And
those guys are great.
And listen, it's hard because he's 7. He's still learning, like, he's still learning words.
Sure. Yeah.
And, like, I hear him on the phone with his coach sometimes. They do a virtual thing, and, like, sometimes the coach has to explain what the word means for Axel to. So it's not perfect for 7, right? Because he just doesn't know enough yet. But I can see his confidence in spending time with this guy go up, and
it's awesome.
It's great.
And when he's
so good.
And when he's having a tough time, like, they're having, like, I can see live, like, the other day he was wrestling and he kind of was getting it taken to him a little bit. And they've been talking to this breathing technique, and the go ended, and I saw him walk away and take, like, 2 really deep breaths.
Nice.
And then he got back
cool.
into it. He whatever. And so, like, he's using some of the tools. But I think, for knowing your horse, like, this is just what we do. We go to wrestling practice.
Right.
We also go to golf and gymnastics, and we go to football. Football. So it's not like we only wrestle. But my point is, also, what do you want to do with your kids? You want to send them around good people. So I'm sending them around Kyle Kiss and Nick Roy and Billy Ashnell and Vinny Delafave and Ray and you and right. And so, like, where do I want them? Where do I want him? He's around great people that are going to help him. So, like, it's wrestling practice, but, like, what would he be doing instead?
Right, playing video
Probably
games.
playing video games on the tablet.
Whatever, doing some
around.
version of nothing.
So like, version of nothing is a great way to say it.
So
YouTube.
So for us, like, just like he sees me wake up every morning, we're going to practice. Like, on Monday he went to golf camp. On Tuesday he went to wrestling camp. On Wednesday today he's back at golf camp. Tomorrow he's going to go to wrestling camp. We're doing something. There's no free time when you're 7.
Right.
Like, what do you need free time? You're not tired.
What do you need too much free time for as an adult
No
either?
free time.
Because what you're
time
basically
for kids is
setting up
terrible.
for him,
Right.
is going to be what it's going to take to be successful in high school, college, and life.
Yeah.
You don't get home from work You know, as you get to be our age, you don't get home from work and sit on the couch, sit in a chair with the Budweiser and the remote.
Right.
I mean, you're still going.
No.
100%,
So get used to it now at 7.
Lenny says it all the time. Free time for kids is not good. Like, and I'm not
Free time
saying
for adults is bad
go to
too, though.
wrestling
That's my
practice,
point.
but do
Free
something.
home, free time is not good for adults either.
I
you know,
talk to my clients all the time who are they're talking about they can't sleep well, and they talk, they work all day, then they do with kids, then they want to have me time. I'm like, okay, show me what me time is. What is that? Netflix, for 2 hours eating junk food. And it's like, well, now your sleep is suffering. My me time looks like journaling, reading a book. It doesn't sound too great sometimes for people, but it feels great for me. And try it though.
Or working out,
right?
Because then your me time makes you tired,
right?
And then you go to bed at night.
Then you're waking up early.
Then you're stressed, and then you have anxiety, and it's like, okay, so try having a healthy me time. See how you feel, because then you become addicted to that feeling good, right?
And that stuff all compounds, just like the fasting, the working out, the runs. That's all compound. We can't see that compound interest building, but it's building by the day.
No doubt.
And that confidence is building simultaneously with that discipline and that consistency.
100%.
I'm not doing this I do it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to do this. If I decided tomorrow morning I don't want to work out no more, I'm just not going to work out anymore. Now, I'm not going to like the outcome of those things, but I'm not doing this for anybody but me and my family, right?
Feeling good.
It's for me. And so the positive consequence of that is that they're going to see what happens when you do these things. And it's not all perfect. It still goes wrong. It still goes sideways. You still have to fight through that. So, teaching Axel and Lola those things of even Lola, she's younger than Axel, obviously, but she's she'll pick up the jump rope while we're working out. She'll want to show me her muscles. She's into it now. And she's at golf camp this week, right?
Yeah. Perfect.
So she wants to be part of the crew too. So you know what I mean?
It's awesome.
It's just all habits.
Yeah.
Really.
It really is,
and
man.
Consistency.
That's awesome. Side, you got anything else over there?
Nah, man, just piggybacking off of that, show me your habits and I'll show you your mental health. I'll show you your bank account. It's all, it all comes down to
intertwined. That's almost back to that harmony word too, where it's like, hey, all right, if one of them is right, all of them are right. If one of them's a little bit off, then, maybe it's the bank account that's off. Maybe it's the health that's off, the mental health.
Yep.
Yeah.
The work-life harmony, I would encourage anybody to try to live that way. And it's not going to be perfect, but when you try to separate really important things, it's too hard. Because they're meant.
Each one is too important too.
Yeah, and they're meant to go together. So, and if you can find the balance between all the things you want to accomplish and do, and they all complement each other, and you got the right partner, in your husband or your wife or your whatever, and life is better.
Yeah. It's your mindset around it too, right? Yeah. It's like, if you have a positive mindset around work, around family, around blending it all together, it is going to be harmonized, right? If you're saying getting stressed out and I work too much and my job's too hard and my boss sucks and my coworkers are a pain in the ass and this, that, you're not going to have that harmony.
That almost just created work burnout.
Yeah.
Why would you even want to be or work somewhere that you want to keep away from your family?
Right. That's
it just sounds crazy. Right? It's, I don't know. I could talk about that forever. I think that's really important. If you can get yourself to understand that work and life and other important things all need to complement each other, your life is going to be better.
I love that.
Me too.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. This was awesome. This is just as great as I anticipated. Sean, you had a lot of really great stuff. Saidi, is awesome seeing you again.
Thanks, man.
Let us know when you're fully healed to hit the pavement. Saidi will make a trip down.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. 100%.
Cool.
Let's get it.
All right, boys.
Awesome.
Yeah. You guys can like, subscribe, share, keep following. We appreciate it. We got a lot of momentum going here, so we appreciate everybody's support. Thanks so much for tuning in.